Hello everyone! Today we're going to quickly go over 3 different types of media that you could possibly do for a similar artist or similar project. As we go along in our studio art class, it's your responsibility to stay on top of your organization and to be getting each of your media done throughout our different artists every week. So today we're going to go over colored pencil, watercolors, and oil pastels. The artist that we are referencing and using as an example is Georgia O'Keeffe, but we'll go over multiple other artists today that you might be inspired from to start your drawing, painting, or mixed media projects. So to get started, let's just think about how we would fill in entire papers. We don't want to leave any empty spots around the edges. We want to make sure that we're fully committing, and especially when we're thinking about the kind of artist or the movement that we're working in, using that as inspiration. So with Georgia O'Keeffe, I really zoomed in on these flower sketches that I've started here. And we've got a little bit of the media going as well. So when we go with colored pencils, always remember to start lightly. With colored pencils, you can build up many layers. So especially with the different values, get those darker values in the areas where the shading would be, and you're going to fill in. There's different kinds of ways we can fill in. First, you can just use line work and move in the direction in which you want your lines to go. You could also do cross hatching. That involves lines going in opposite directions. So you might start going up and down, then go side to side, or vice versa. That's going to add in more of that texture. And if you want those lines to go diagonally, you could do that in certain areas as well. There's also scumbling and sgraffito. Scumbling is when we move our pencil in small circles to fill in space. It gives a more round appearance, a more round texture. It can be a little softer, a little smoother than those cross hatchings. For our stippling, it takes time, it takes effort, and you'll have to do quite a bit of stippling and dot making in order to fill it in. Lastly, really thinking about our pressure and the different values that we can make. Always starting off lightly, by adding more pressure, we can easily establish different values. You could even do some color mixing when you're thinking about value in lighter areas, using different colors to support those different values. Okay, now for our painting, we're going to shuffle on over. There are 2 techniques I want to remind you of, and one is wet on dry paper and the other is wet on wet. So when you're thinking about line work and establishing what you're going to be creating in a painting, it's great to start with those basic lines, that basic structure for an underpainting, and then you can go back in and really get all of the details and line work you need. Now when you go wet on dry, you have quite a bit of control of where your lines are going to go. You have control over the paint a little bit more. When you do wet on wet, like we're going to do now, you have to kind of let the paint work with itself. You're adding that water down first, and you have some control, but not as much. So I've added a nice layer of water here, and I'm going to start adding in some of my color. I might add a little bit more water to help smooth it around. You can also get a little bit more of an organic look from that wet on wet with how your paint's going to lay on your paper and how it's going to dry. Here we have a couple examples of just line work with wet on wet and the dry on wet. All right, last but certainly not least, we're going to be looking at some oil pastels, some similar techniques, just a different media here, from line work to scumbling to also blending. Oil pastels give us a really wonderful opportunity to blend because they are oil and they like to work together. They like to go onto the paper and be worked into the paper as well. So first and foremost, thinking of your color scheme, you might start with some line work. You can go soft and gently, where you're going to have lots of area to overlap or to fill in. But another thing you could do is give that deep pressure and fill in all of that paper and all of the little grooves that are there. You can layer again on top, it'll just have that little different effect. So depending on that pressure, you either get that more speckled kind of look or a deep color. For the scumbling or the sgraffito, You can do the same with an oil pastel, just moving in little circular directions. This is great for layering. This is great for thinking about shadows, adding that pressure in little areas to show dimension. And lastly, we're going to do a little blending. So you can do a light application of 2 colors, and using your finger or a Kleenex or paper towel, you can push the color into your paper. Now with oil pastels, you can always come back and add more of a certain value. You can lighten it up by blending in white and anywhere you need to find the highlight or to bring some of those lighter values back. But these are all just some simple ways to use our oil pastels, our watercolors, and our colored pencils. Good luck on your planning. Let me know if you have any questions, and happy creating!